get that down. 3, 2,
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Orange County IDA meeting for May 15th of 2024. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I would ask for, and the time is 5:08. I would ask for a roll call, please. Bill?
Jeffrey Christ.
Here.
Dean Tamburri.
Here.
Susan Walski.
Here.
Linda Muller.
Here.
Giovanni Palladino.
Here.
Mark Green.
Here.
Dr. Vincent Oda.
Here.
Present from staff, myself, Bill Fioravanti, Kelly Riley, Marty. Did I mention Marty before?
I'm used to it.
Holy, you better not be. I just somehow realized that when I looked at her. Just hiding over there. Marty Boras, Billy Iverson from Acquisitions Marketing, our general counsel Susan Katzoff, and last but not least, our friends from Anshin, Anthony Bracco and Brian Sandage.
Thank you, Bill. And we have proof of notice for this meeting. It was done on May 2nd, 2024. That is included in the board packet. Moving on to the minutes for the April 24th, 2024 board meeting. I would ask for any comments, additions, corrections, or a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve by Linda, second to that motion.
I'll second that.
Second by Susan Walski. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. And Giovanni abstained. 6 in favor, 1 abstention. The minutes are approved. Moving on to my chairman's report. We started providing this opportunity for a few comments from myself at, I believe, the last meeting. And I have to say, it's been a busy month. It seems like I speak with Bill most every day, even though I try not to. A lot of the communication has been around the Shovel Ready Grant, Fast New York, with the property in the town of Montgomery, working with ESD and making sure we get things aligned properly. I know Bill will have more to say about that in his report. I did join the meeting with 3 more members of the Anshin team. I stayed for about half of that meeting. I found it collaborative and positive. Certainly a good working relationship. So I thank them for their time and focus with myself and Bill and Marty and Kelly. I reviewed, couldn't read my notes. I reviewed the sample logo options with Bill. We're still looking at options there going forward, and that'll tie in with the website updates and a bit of rebranding of the Orange County IDA. There certainly are discussions out there on potential opportunities for new projects, and I know Bill has seems like a meeting every day there too with some opportunity. So I think there's some optimism going ahead. It might take a little time for those to materialize. And speaking of Bill getting out in the community with the Orange County IDA communications, I can tell you he's doing an amazing job. I did listen to your 2 radio spots, yes, and they were very well done.
Good.
So I think reaching out and having that communication is very important. So that concludes my report. I'll hand it over to you, Bill.
Terrific, thank you, Jeff. Just a couple things. Yeah, I was just going to mention the working relationship with Anshin has been great. Brian and Anthony were the first, they're the leads on this project, but there were 3 other folks that came on their own last week, met with us, Marty, myself, and Kelly, in order to just review our policies. We had given them a big kind of tranche of policies and other documents and things they requested in a little questionnaire. So we provided that, and it was great. Everything's been very collaborative. They're looking to help us be better, whatever that means, and so are we, frankly. So that's how we're looking, and I think that's how it's playing out. So really hopeful about that. As you mentioned, Fast New York, and some of this is in my report. I don't want to repeat too much, but we are, as Jeff said, trying to just make sure we have all the details. This is our first, could be multiple grants we do with Fast New York. It's the first one. We want to make sure we understand our responsibilities and we have it right, and we're procurement, MWBE requirement, all of that. So we're airing that out. We also are interested in, we're committed to, I would say, trying to hire someone to kind of guard our interests in this project and help coordinate things. Because as I said not too long ago in the Finance Committee meeting, we're slow in terms of IDA business, and I'm still, as a staff, we're very, very busy. So to take this on and really own the whole thing, I think it would be a bit much. So we're looking to hire someone to help us with the initial stage, which falls under the level that's fits for my allowance, my authorization at $2,500 to get someone started on that project, and then we'll do a proper RFP really for a longer phase of that oversight. So I think that's essential. I think Jeff agrees. And
Yes.
we've identified someone that can help us get going, but then we'll do a proper RFP for like the entire project, someone to manage that. And that's built into our budget that we're looking for reimbursement from ESD on, so you know. Let's see what next. I want to mention the radio ads. If you haven't heard them, I sent them, I think, earlier this week with maybe the schedule. But take a listen. There's Lynn, I know when we met, you listened to them. There's a 30-second spot that will air during sports games, Hudson Valley Renegades right now, Army football, all of that. And then there's a 60-second spot that we've had that same program for a while where it's kind of a PSA on the IDA. It's more involved, that 60-second one, obviously. 30-second one still I thought was palatable, and it's going to be played a lot during those broadcasts and such. So take a listen, because I was trying to capture what, in that short amount of time, what are those salient points that people need to hear that they often misunderstand. So and I know, Linda, you kind of felt that we were getting close to, as you
Well
said,
done.
Jeff. Okay, terrific, thanks. Branding, I do want to pass this around. This, kind of just came about, capacity. You take this one, Jeff, and pass those on. We have now 4 logo options to consider. We have talked about different names, as you know, and I really think we're back now to sticking with our name, except focusing on educating the public and restoring our name so that people understand the work we do, why we do it, and the people that's behind it. I don't think anything stuck out as, hey, this is the one, but I would love to get feedback formally or informally from you over the next few weeks, so I see what your thoughts are. The first couple of pages you see are all, if you'll recall, they're based on extensive research that Capacity Marketing did, including interviews with some of you and other stakeholders in the area. So it takes all of that into account. And I do like that even if you don't get a logo, which I feel like, I'm not sure of this, there's a little explanation as to why they put it together, what the meaning is behind it. It's still got to work and it's got to kind of click for all of us, but we can certainly tweak all these, but I want to get them in front of you so you see what we're looking at, and if you have any feedback between now and the next meeting, I'd love to get it, okay? Also with the website, this does play into the website. We've had about 3 calls already with the web developer, 88 Studios, going very well. We have right now in hand a site map, the way they're laying out, they've organized all the information saying, hey, this is how we think it should be organized. I think now is the time for me and the staff to critique that and say, I really think you're missing this. So we're trying to hammer that out, and then it really gets more specific in terms of just fleshing out the pages and exactly the aesthetics and all of that. But it's going really well, great working with them, and I'm really excited about that. Again, looking to launch that new site sometime in September. And lastly, next week I will be at the annual meeting for New York State EDC in Cooperstown, so always a good session. We're usually mentioned in the first 1 or 2 governance sessions, so we'll see if there's anything about the IDA, but soon we'll be the role model. Because I'll remind people, and some don't know it, I first met Sue Katzoff. She was in the first breakout session for my first time I went to that conference, and she was talking about good governance, and the Orange County IDA was the case study of what not to do at that time. So I was in the back row with my paper bag on my head, but someday soon we're going to be leading sessions talking about how to do it properly, so I look forward to that. So are you leading any sessions next week, or on a panel or anything? Okay.
No, not next week.
Okay. That's it, sir.
Any comments, questions for Bill related to the report? I might just ask Bill, you had mentioned in the Finance Committee, I think, meeting with other IDAs in the region.
Yes, thanks.
Any comments on
Yeah, I
that?
may have said that, it may be in my report, but I do appreciate being able to kind of say it publicly. I'm really proud of the relationships that we have with other IDAs in the region, both our local IDAs in Orange County, 5 of them we have, and then our IDAs in Ulster, Rockland, Sullivan, Westchester. We all get together periodically, both at conferences like next week, but we get together at each other's offices and talk about issues that we're facing. So It's been really terrific. They're all great people. I think they all recognize that this is especially in trying to, going back to the educating the public, it's a team effort here. We're all fighting the same fight when it comes to that and fighting the same disinformation. So that's been great. They also, one of our subjects was talking about business activity, and we're all, to a person, seeing the same kind of cooling off in terms of our pipeline right now. And most of the explanations around interest rates and actually the looming presidential election keeping some projects on the sidelines. So that was something that we shared. But a great meeting that we had this time over in Poughkeepsie. We hosted the last one. But I look forward to keeping those going. They're great people, great professionals, and certainly helped me continue to ramp up in this position.
Excellent.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I would just
Linda.
like to recognize that our CEO is going to be receiving the Distinguished Citizens Award by the Hudson Valley Boy Scout Council. Well deserved, and I'm going to be happy to celebrate you. I will be coming, and I would encourage any of my fellow board members to come out and support our CEO.
Appreciate
Well
that
done.
very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. I do plan to attend
And
as
your
well.
recognition from Orange County Land Trust, I think, is the next day. So the IDA folks are getting some
I
props.
think we're right on the cusp now of being able to run a session on how to run an IDA.
There we go. There we go. Super. Thank you.
Thank you for that report, Bill. Moving on to committee reports. Audit Committee, Sue Walski, please.
Yes, we had a meeting. There were 4 different waivers presented to us at that meeting for local labor and various things. The first one was for Orange Inn, a carpet installation, which had been done previous to a monitor being contacted. So we did grant that because the project is completed and they've already received a CO and everything for that. The second one was for Warwick West 1, 2, and 3, aka Convergent Energy. They had some fencing installed by an outside vendor before the monitors were even on site. Really gave us no choice but to approve it. However, we did apply a $2,500 penalty to them for having this done without our monitors present. Lastly, there were 2 waivers that were requested by Royal Wine. Both were for specialty labor. One was for the installation of a 40-foot plus tall refrigeration panels, and the other one was for a high-tech pallet storage system. There was a lot of discussion back and forth on this. We did have the local monitors in who did tell us that right now this project is using 91% local labor. We did request that a letter be stated that they had gone to local labor to make sure they had gotten the best prices possible from them to be put into our file. So we did grant those. It is in the long run, even though outside labor will be brought in, it is also a plus for the county because that labor that's going to be coming up from the south will be using our hotel rooms and they will be using our restaurants.
Thank you, Sue. Questions for Sue? And,
I lived it, I was there.
oh, great, yes, there's other committee members here from the audit
Yes.
committee.
Yes.
Do we need to take board action on this report, Sue? I'm hearing, or seeing, we don't need to.
Sorry, I was on mute and I didn't realize it. No, because your bylaws vest with them the authority to make the waiver, so they're just reporting out to you what action they took.
Excellent, thank you for that clarification. We'll move on to Finance Committee. Mark Green, please.
The committee reviewed the April 24 financial reports and the April and May payables. Recommended approval by for the full board. We also voted to recommend that the board approve the proposed capitalization policy, which is included in the packets. 2 other things, no discussions needed on our investments because nothing comes due till next month. And we also approved, per our discussion last time, from Susan, putting a $7,500 cap on recurring expenses. And that is the finance report.
Thank you, Mark, and I understand we approved the, help me out with this, no cap on the, what do they call those?
Where are we, I know.
On the last thing Mark just
The
mentioned.
recurring?
Yes, recurring.
No cap on what?
We approved a plan but did not have a cap.
Oh, I see
So-
what you're saying, last time.
So
Yes,
the
I
committee
apologize.
is suggesting we change that to have a cap at
It
75.
was raised by, I think, Ms. Walsky
Yes.
when we brought it out of committee, so that's why we discussed that.
So we did
I
follow up
apologize.
on that. Thank you for that help. I would ask for a motion to accept the Finance Committee report, including the April financials and April-May payables. We'll handle the capitalization policy separately, as well as the recurring expenses, I would think. So would anyone care to make a motion on the report and the payables and the financials?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Susan,
Second.
second by Linda. Are there any other questions on those? And I'll just note the board did have these in their board packet over the last week. Is that correct, Bill? Questions, comments? Not hearing any. Would anyone care to make a motion to accept the reports as proposed?
I think we had the motion.
Oh, we did. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Just go.
Just need the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you for that help. Concerning the capitalization policy, as we did in the OCFC, we separated it from the two organizations, and the committee did approve that as written. Would anyone care to make a motion to accept the capitalization policy?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Everybody's very quiet.
I don't like doing it because I had that
Yeah.
committee, so
I know.
I feel awkward doing
A
it.
second to that motion. Giovanni, thank you. Any questions on that policy? Hearing none, I'll ask for the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Try to do that on track. And Sue, we should have a separate motion for the reoccurring expense cap of $7,500.
Yes,
Would anyone care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Giovanni, thank you. Second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Susan, any questions, thoughts on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. That motion is approved. Next, we have under new business, appointment of Linda Muller to the Governance Committee for the Orange County IDA. I would ask for a motion to appoint Linda to that
I
position.
will make that motion.
Thank you, Mark. Second by Doc Odock. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same.
I abstain.
And Linda abstains. Thank you, Linda. And then we're
Yes,
ready for this. This is an item that Susan Katzoff is going to discuss
yes.
concerning procurement. Sue?
Hi, everybody. So it's not really specific to procurement per se, but about a year ago, you made a short amendment to your bylaws to eliminate positions that you no longer have. So you no longer have a COO, you no longer have a CFO, and so we amended the bylaws to take those references out because they were no longer applicable. But they still are sprinkled in throughout some of your policies because you haven't had the opportunity to globally review those with governance and just make those amendments as necessary to clean up the language. So in talking to Bill about it, what we thought would be appropriate is simply to ask the board to authorize Bill as the CEO to implement and carry out the agency's policies, which I believe is within the scope of his duties, but we thought just to make the record clear that if the board would consider that, they could make that motion this evening.
And are they specifically related to CFO and COO, or we don't need to specify that?
We don't need to specify. We just want to give Bill the authority to implement, carry out, and enforce the board's policies.
Got it. Is everybody comfortable with what we're discussing here?
Yes.
It partly came up, I believe, because in our procurement policy, it requires a CFO authorizing at particular levels. And my question to Bill was, who's the CFO?
Right.
And that's how we got to this spot now, I believe, right, Sue?
Correct. And the policy mirrors what you're required to do under the general municipal law. It's just that previous boards had, different titles. So authorizing Bill to undertake, implement, and enforce your policies, which is his job, just gives him additional authority to do that without any question. It's like you're adding an extra person. It's not changing your policies that the board has adopted.
Would anyone care to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Oh.
Either one.
I'll defer.
Giovanni,
Yes,
motion,
yes.
second by Linda.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
Can I just ask?
Yes, Bill.
I'm gonna be so bold, because we had not discussed this with Anshin and
Okay,
we're trying
sure.
to get it. Anything you wanna raise right now or concerns about us proceeding with this, with what we're trying to do?
We're comfortable with it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, you
I got a
okay?
question.
Okay.
Just because I'm very, when it comes to redundancy and what have you, I realize we don't have a CFO or COO now. Would this vote preclude us from having that policy in the future if we ever had those positions?
If the board wants to reinstitute those positions or add those positions to your roster, you can do that through an amendment of your bylaws. So no, what we're asking you to do has no impact on that. To do that, you would just vote to amend your bylaws to add that position and outline what the roles and responsibilities of that title would be.
All right, so, as of right now, Bill, this is, if I'm reading this incorrectly, this is just a formality.
Yes.
You're doing it because you're the only guy here.
Yes.
Okay.
But we need to have, now that it's something I'm gonna procure here again, we just wanna make sure we have it right, that's all, so that it's codified.
All right, but, I get it, but it's just dancing in the back of my mind. So, let me give you an example. My wife and I, we run several charitable foundations. And, even though I'm on every bank account, because I get all the statements, I don't write a single check. This way, the treasurer writes the check, I get the account statements, I can then make sure that, I'm not writing the check, so I couldn't.
Separation of duties.
Exactly. And so, it just, there's I should trust you, I'm not
No,
making any disparaging
I
remarks.
don't take any of that.
We're
personally
doing it
at all.
already, I understand all of that. I just have to assume that what we do on a monthly basis, seeing every receipt is good enough redundancy that we're keeping an eye on.
I will say that, of course, we're using what we're calling an external CFO. She's not as close
Yeah.
in the operations and such, so that's why I guess I would say I prefer to keep it in-house, but she's also, Sue's trying to raise her hand. You wanna cut right into it?
Please.
So, Mark, I understand your concerns, and I will just say this. Your policy, if you're talking specifically about procurement, it tracks the general municipal law. And no matter who you give the authority to, they have blanket authority under a certain financial threshold. Once it gets above that threshold, then they have to go and follow several steps. They have to maybe do an official bid for it. They have to come to the board. There's a million steps they have to go through.
Depending upon the category, if it's public works, it's a
Exactly.
services contract, whatever. That's why she's not giving you a number.
Correct. So whether it's Bill or if the board someday decides they want to have a CFO, you appoint a CFO, that same CFO is going to make the same decision under a certain threshold. So those checks and balances are there in your policy, but it recognizes that in order to be able to function on a day-to-day basis, there's got to be a threshold at which people can act before waiting 30 days for a next board meeting. And that's not unique to your IDA, that's true for every IDA. And the general municipal law is written that way to allow that kind of flexibility. So I don't know if that helps answer your question in terms of concerns about checks and balances.
It does, it all does. I appreciate the conversation, that's all I want to say. I'm good.
Yeah,
Doc, go down.
just to add to that, is part of the reason why we're eliminating a CFO position has to do with savings or something?
It was just that we made changes based upon where we were, right, when all the malfeasance happened. And we, a lot of people were fired or left or whatever happened, and based upon where we were, we just tried to operate the organization with what we had, and we figured out what we needed to add, and frankly, we added, of course, Kelly was here, we added Marty as soon as we possibly could, and general counsel, so we've been operating just fine, and I was looking to economize a little bit with this external CFO concept, as opposed to paying a full-time CFO here, which was always questionable beforehand, frankly. It's something they didn't want to do for a while, and then the bad actors kind of, pushed them to do that. So I think it's in our future, potentially, assuming, that we continue, with what we have ahead. I think that it's in the future, but right now, we're operating just fine as is. Because our committee is very effective, and we work well with RBT for the work that they do. And as you know, we're even gonna look next month at some other additional improvements like Bill.com, so we can eliminate the need for RBT to cut our checks and all of that. So I think it's working right now, but we could add that in the future. Same as the COO, by the way, which we also eliminated. So it's Dr. Odak's question. So it's just based upon where we were at that time, and we wanted to kind of right-size the bylaws with the way the organization was running at that time. And it was much heavier before that, because remember, there were all the staff just for the accelerator that we essentially eliminated too. So it was just a cleanup at the time based on where we were. Sue, do you want to add?
And, yeah, I just want to note for the record, an IDA is not required to have all of those positions. So they are optional to you. Every organization chooses their staff as they see fit. You are required to have an external auditor, and you do. So I don't know what the rationale was back when those positions were originally created, and Bill's right that maybe the organization as a whole was bigger. But all of those positions were in-house, is my understanding. So it's not as if you were going outside of the organization to fill those roles. But again, they're not required.
Thank you for the discussion, everybody. Sue, would you just clearly restate the motion so we get it right as we get prepared to vote?
Sure, I would simply propose that the board authorize the CEO to carry out the policies of the agency. Or maybe to implement and carry out the policies of the agency.
Thank you. Any other questions before the vote?
No, good now.
Looks like we're good to go. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. 7 in favor, nobody opposed. That motion is carried. Congratulations on your new duties.
Thanks.
Fill that plate further.
Yeah. And I believe that completes our agenda for tonight, unless I'm missing anything. I would ask for a motion to adjourn
Motion?
by Susan Walski, second by Dean. And before I call for that vote, thank you, Bill. I know a lot of preparation goes into these meetings, and thank you, Marty and Kelly, and Sue Katzoff is involved in that as well. So thank you all for being here, and have a good night. All in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Meeting concluded.